In this video, we take a look at 10 German watch brands that you should know. Let's get started. Kicking off today's list, we have Archimede. This is a German watch brand that released its first model back in 2003. However, the current company leader, Thomas Ickler, is a third-generation professional in the watch industry. First-generation Karl Ickler founded the Ickler family business back in 1924. He had previously been the head of manufacturing for various other businesses before starting his own watch case factory. Then in 1947, his two sons rebuilt the company, which had laid dormant during the war. Today though, Archimede is creating traditional German-styled pilot's watches, with their most popular models being their affordable options. Of course, because the family has so much history with the watch case industry, they still produce incredible cases to this day. Their watches usually consist of Swiss automatic movements, sapphire crystals, and feature swimmable water resistance ratings. And of course, the watches are made in Germany. Impressively, they offer a wide range of sizes with their watches, ranging from smaller 36mm versions for small wrists and up to 45mm for the larger wrists. If you enjoy the classic Flieger aesthetic, this is without question a lesser known watch brand in Germany that needs more attention. Coming up next, we have Heinrich. If you like the look of vintage watches, this one's for you. This is a super new independent watch brand that was founded in 2020. The company was founded in Stuttgart by Wolfgang Heinrich. Wolfgang is a watch enthusiast that developed a passion for art and design as a teenager. He's a hobbyist diver who enjoys 70s style watches. He combines these two interests with his first watch release, a 70s style dive watch with tons of vintage design cues but built with the best modern materials. Even though these watches are clearly vintage inspired, there is still tons of originality. It's fair to say that these watches aren't a direct homage to any particular model, instead a clear love and appreciation for the vintage look with a modern twist. My favourite watch from their collection is the beautiful GMT offering, which has tons of depth, detail, and slightly strays away from being a purely vintage inspired watch, looking more contemporary with plenty of original design ideas. The watches feature great lume, Swiss movements, and beautiful boxed sapphire crystals, so although the watches are old in look, they have the materials to last a lifetime. Although we have tons of choice when it comes to vintage style dive watches these days, Heinrich are producing some of the most impressive and beautiful I have personally seen. Okay, so coming up next on today's list, we have MeisterSinger. If you're looking for something that's completely out of the box, this one's for you. This is an award-winning independent watchmaker that was founded in 2001. The one thing that is immediately noticeable is of course the dial, as the main standout feature of this brand is the fact that they only use one hand to tell the time. This design was inspired by old clock towers, like Westminster Abbey in London, England. In fact, in 2013, MeisterSinger released a special edition watch that was based on Westminster Abbey to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. MeisterSinger has won 34 different design awards for their watches, all coming from the most prestigious design bodies. Surprisingly, these watches are incredibly functional and easy to read considering that they only have one hand. Each marking on the dial represents a 5-minute interval, with more pronounced markings every 15 and 30 minutes. Of course, there'll be a bit of a learning curve when using the watch, however, I'm sure that eventually the simplicity will be appreciated. If you're enjoying this video so far, please do me a huge favour and leave a like rating. It really helps me and the channel to continue creating videos just like this one. Okay, so next up on today's list, we have Circula watches. This is a fairly new watch brand from South Germany that has a history linking back over 70 years. The history of the Circula brand starts with the Huber family in 1955, where the company produced a variety of wristwatches including chronographs and dive watches. However, just like a lot of the watch industry, when the quartz crisis hit in the 70s, Circula was struggling to keep up with the super affordable quartz offerings, subsequently having to close business and stop making watches. However, fast forward to 2017 and Cornelius Huber, grandson of the original founder, relaunched the brand on Kickstarter, to which he designed his first model as a retro-inspired piece to celebrate the past of his family business. All of Circula watches are made in Germany. In fact, they're made in the same city that they were first made in back in the 50s. Circula sourced some of their parts from abroad, like the Swiss movements for example, but everything is assembled in-house and the majority of parts are indeed produced in Germany. So although this is a fairly new watch brand, the Huber family heritage makes this startup rich in history. Coming up next, we have Fine Watches Berlin, and this watch brand is one of my favourites on today's list. This is a micro brand from Berlin, Germany that was founded in 2017. Fine Watches Berlin is a family-run business. The brand was founded by a father and daughter together. Mia and Wilfred love their home city and capital capital of Germany, Berlin. So much so that they homage every single watch that they produce to their beloved location. Most of their watches are named after the father and daughter's favourite places in Berlin. Their designs follow a very classically German aesthetic known as Bauhaus. This is when the focus is purely on function. Reading the time at a glance is an absolute must. However, they've somehow managed to keep the watches looking youthful and detailed while following this design philosophy. Their models are offered in fun and flamboyant colours, similar to what you'd expect to see from a Swatch store, except here we have automatic movements, sapphire crystals, 100 meters water resistance, and steel cases. My personal favourite place I've visited is Berlin. The city is beautiful, the history is all around, and the people are lovely, making Fine Watches Berlin a watch brand that I'll be trying out in the future. Okay, so moving on, we have Dekla watches. These are watches that are designed and assembled in Stuttgart, Germany. Dekla proudly produces a lot of their watch components in-house. The cases are made up of 3 segments. The bezel, mid-case, and caseback are all indeed made and assembled in-house. The highly domed sapphire crystal are also made by themselves, and probably most impressively, the hands are made in-house too. However, these aren't just regular watch hands. These are thermally blued, which means that the hands don't rust over their lifetime, and offer a very cool aesthetic over regular steel hands. Like many other brands on today's list, Dekla uses Swiss movements inside their watches. The popular but expensive to source ETA movements inside will surely last a lifetime. Impressively, some of their watches have water resistance ratings of 200 meters, meaning that they have diving capabilities, even though these are designed in the style of a pilot's watch. Dekla is without question a brand that is proud of their production. Producing a lot of components in-house is very expensive compared to outsourcing from places like China, and considering that Dekla do a lot of the work themselves, the prices are incredibly affordable compared to other pilot watch brands from Germany. Coming up next, we have Damasko. This is a German watch manufacturer that was founded in 1994. Founder Konrad Damasko wanted his timepieces to stand out from the rest in one particular way: robustness. So Damasko watches set out to create a steel alloy that is highly scratch resistant. Not only is the steel made to be stronger, but their watches are also coated in 7 layers of their patented protection substance called Damask. This sticks to the steel like an anchor and protects it against scratches. The cases of Damasko watches are incredibly high on the Vickers hardness scale. Founder Konrad Damasko was an engineer before he started the brand, which of course helped him and encouraged him to create a superior product. However, one of Konrad's main goals is to keep the watches affordable to everyday people, however still ensuring the highest level of quality and these incredible longevity practices. Damasko's DC-56 chronograph has been utilised by German Eurofighter pilots. These have a distinct character to the likes of other German watch brands like Sinn, and interestingly enough, Damasko actually used to produce watch cases for Sinn up until the year 2002. Damasko really makes an effort to create high quality watches, and are a step above in this area in comparison with other brands around this price. Okay, so moving on, we have Sternglas. In 2011, founder Dustin Fontaine was just 16 years old. He found himself working in a watch factory, doing the simple jobs, filing paperwork and putting straps on watches. However, this is what sparked his interest in watches and ultimately gave him the confidence and inspiration to start his own company. And at just the age of 21, he decided to take the jump. Sternglas's first watch was launched on crowdfunding website Kickstarter, where his initial goal was to hit $10,000 to create his first ever watch. At the end of the campaign, the startup managed to gain $16,000 from 100 backers, so the brand was born. However, shortly after customers received their first timepiece, many instances of the glass breaking on the watch began to emerge, which is no surprise because the crystal on the watches that they produce are so large. Dustin had to work to find the solution. He redesigned the watch and fit a more durable domed sapphire crystal to increase durability, which worked tremendously. Luckily, Dustin managed to save the brand after the rocky start and turn things around, now having successfully launched many models that are loved by watch enthusiasts. Next up, we have the oldest watch brand on today's list with Laco. The brand was founded almost 100 years ago in 1925. The company was originally called Laco & Co., named after the founders Laco and Ludwig. Laco was one of the providers of the original Flieger watches to the Luftwaffe, aka the German Air Force, during the Second World War, along with huge brands like A. Lange & Söhne and IWC. Skip forward to 1961, Laco was the first German watch brand to release an electronic watch. Yes, this is before the quartz crisis. These electronic movements look very similar to mechanical movements in appearance, but are powered by a battery. century. This kind of innovation was what inspired Seiko to create its quartz watches that caused shockwaves in the watch world. Speaking of, Laco, like many other watch brands, struggled tremendously throughout this period, which forced the company to lay dormant until its relaunch. Thankfully, when Laco did start to produce watches again, they went back to their roots, focusing on creating pilot watches in the style of the original Flieger watches. Today, Laco produces a large range of watches. Dive watches, dress watches, chronographs, all those still have the DNA of what makes Laco so recognizable. So last on today's list, but certainly not least, we have Nomos. This is an independent watch brand founded in 1990, just 2 months after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The first collection of Nomos watches was drawn up by designer Susanne Gunther, who took inspiration from the Bauhaus purist style, which is still clear to see on their modern day releases. Nomos has 3 sites in Glashütte, a location that is respected and renowned for its tradition in watchmaking. Nomos produces around 20,000 watches per year, meaning that in just 30 years, Nomos has managed to grow its customer base from a micro-brand status into full-blown independent watchmaking. A huge step for the brand happened in 2005, when Nomos decided to create their very own in-house movements. Before this, Nomos relied on brands like ETA to provide the movements for them. Nomos, however, realized that in order to scale the business and produce watches for demand, they needed to be self-reliant. So they spent millions of dollars and years of research and development to now have produced over 11 different in-house movements that can be found in their whole range of watches. Many watch enthusiasts, including myself, believe that Nomos are offering some of the best value for money watches in the whole world. Their contemporary original designs, incredible in-house movements, and very fair prices make them a favourite in the wristwatch community. If you liked this video and want to learn more about other watch brands, be sure to watch my video here on screen on 10 British watch brands that you should know.